Have you ever really stopped to think about what's happening on a cosmic level the moment Shabbat begins? Because it's so much more than just putting down our work. According to the deepest mystical texts, it's the activation of a universal protective shield, a hidden architecture of peace that literally reconfigures reality itself. All right, let's get into it, because we are about to explore the source code of Shabbat, not just as a day of rest, but as a divine firewall for the entire universe. So, everything we're about to unpack, it all begins with this one incredibly profound phrase from the Zohar. A Sukkah of Peace begins and spreads over the world. Now, you have to understand, this is not just poetry. The Zohar is describing a tangible, energetic event. It's talking about the deployment of this vast, luminous canopy of peace, a shelter that literally envelops all of creation. This is our key. This is the verse that unlocks the whole mystery. All right, so here's our roadmap for this journey. We're going to look at this idea through what's known as the pardas, the four traditional levels of understanding. We'll start with that luminous canopy, then see how it acts like a divine firewall. We'll peek inside the cosmic engine, understand what a universe without fear really looks like, explain it as a safe zone, and finally, talk about how we can actually live inside the sukkah. Okay, so let's start with the pshat, the simple, tangible experience. This is what you can literally feel. I want you to imagine, as the sun sets on Friday, it's not just the daylight that's changing. A vast, luminous shelter, a gentle but overwhelmingly powerful field of serenity, actually begins to descend and spread across the entire globe. It's a real, palpable shift in the spiritual atmosphere of the planet. You know, the Zohar uses this incredible imagery to describe the moment. It says, as this unique holiness awakens, the world is enveloped. All chaos is stilled. And get this, all forces of impurity, every harmful spirit and negative energy, they flee. And they don't just, take off. They hide themselves in what the Zohar calls the eye of the millstone of the great deep, basically a spiritual abyss where they are completely sealed off from creation. This isn't a battle, it's a recalibration. Holiness simply comes in and displaces everything that isn't holy. So now let's move to the remez, the level of hints and allegory. To really get our heads around what this Sukkah of Peace is actually doing, we can use a pretty powerful modern analogy. I want you to think of the universe not just as a physical space, but as a vast, interconnected operating system. And on Shabbat, this entire system reboots into maximum security mode. And this is the critical point right here. The Sukkah of Shalom isn't a physical hut we build once a year. It's a cosmic field of divine protection. It's an automated, system-wide protocol that just kicks in the second Shabbat begins. And its function? To neutralize all spiritual threats and shut down negative processes across every single realm, automatically. No user intervention needed. It is, for all intents and purposes, a divine firewall. And this comparison just makes it so clear. During the 6 weekdays, the system is running on manual defenses. We have to actively ask for protection through specific prayers because, harmful spiritual entities have permission to operate. We're in a constant reactive state. But on Shabbat, the whole system reboots. A system-wide firewall goes up. Protection is inherent, it's automatic. All those malicious entities are sandboxed, they're contained, withdrawn, and they literally can't do any harm. The whole system is proactively stabilized from above, preempting any threat before it can even start. It's a fundamental upgrade to reality itself. All right, now we're going to go deep. We're heading into the Sod, the secret level of understanding. How does this firewall actually work? What is going on inside the cosmic engine to make this happen? To answer that, we have to look at the Sephirots, the 10 fundamental channels through which all divine energy flows into creation. Because on Shabbat, these channels undergo a pretty radical realignment. So in Kabbalah, colors are used as analogies to help us grasp these huge divine energies. And the core dynamic of Shabbat is this massive shift between two main forces. Gevura, which is strict judgment, represented by the color red, and Chesed, which is boundless mercy, represented by white. Now, during the week, they're kind of in a balance, but on Shabbat, an overwhelming flood of white, pure mercy, flows down from a higher source called Bina. And this flow, it doesn't destroy the red of judgment. It completely envelops it, sweetening its nature into pure peace. And our world, which is called Malhut, is then totally sheltered under this canopy of mercy. This whole principle is known as Tzak va'adom, white and red, and it's the key to the entire operation. See, the system isn't just switching off judgment.
That would cause a huge imbalance. Instead, it's transforming it. Imagine you have a single drop of red dye, and you pour so much pure, cool water into its container that the water itself just stays perfectly clear. It's completely absorbed and neutralized the color. That is exactly what's happening on Shabbat. The very nature of cosmic justice gets elevated and sweetened by this incredible infusion of mercy.
And this is where the number 7 is so important. It's not just the next number after 6, right? 7 represents a complete, perfected cycle. The 6 days of creation are the process of building. The 7th day is the perfected state. It's the whole reason the other 6 existed. So on that 7th day, the entire system of creation just clicks into the state of restful wholeness and stability. So, where does all this overwhelming white light of mercy actually come from? Well, it's characterized by the 13 attributes of mercy. This is the ultimate expression of divine compassion, a flow so incredibly powerful it can override the normal rules of cause and effect of strict justice. This is the supernal energy that's fueling the Shabbat firewall. And if you want to get really granular with the mechanics, the mystics explain it with the number 5. There are 5 aspects or states of judgment and 5 corresponding aspects of mercy. On Shabbat, the 5 states of mercy don't just fight back against judgment, they completely envelop and integrate them. This creates a perfect, holistic peace, not by getting rid of a force, but by harmonizing everything under the total, overwhelming influence of mercy. Okay, so now we move to the drash, the practical lesson we can learn from all this crazy mystical architecture. Because if the system is so perfectly protected, it has huge implications for how we pray. In fact, it answers a really famous question. Here's the paradox, right? All week long, our prayers are full of requests for protection, from harm, from enemies, from all kinds of spiritual dangers. But then, on Shabbat, the holiest day of all, we suddenly stop. We take all those requests out. Why? I mean, if the world is so dangerous, why on earth would we drop our guard on the most sacred day? And the answer from the Harkanati commentary is just, it's stunning. It's a disgrace to the king. Imagine you are walking with a king, and the king himself has his arm around your shoulder, and he's promised you his total personal protection. Would you then turn to one of his low-level bodyguards and say, hey, can you keep an eye on me? Of course not. It would be a massive insult to the king's honor, to his power. On Shabbat, the king himself is our protection. To ask for help from lesser forces is to diminish the honor of Shabbat itself. And this protection is absolute. I mean, the Zoharic literature is crystal clear on this. The punitive fires of Gehenna are stilled. All angels of destruction are withdrawn. The entire other side, the Sitra Achra, is sealed away. Harmful spirits are contained. They can't roam the earth. The very potential for spiritual damage is literally removed from the system. There is simply no fear because there is no active threat. It's gone. Now, I know these are some deep concepts, so let's try to make them accessible to everyone. We can use 2 really distinct modern metaphors to explain this. So whether you think in terms of video games or cosmic engineering, the principle is exactly the same. Okay, so for all the gamers out there, think of Shabbat like entering a sanctuary level. A global shield activates, all the enemies and hostile mobs, they just despawn. Your health and your mana automatically restore to full. And you actually get bonus XP just for resting. It's a total safe zone where you can recharge without any threat. Now, for the engineers, think of it as a system-wide peace protocol. All malicious processes are quarantined in a sandbox, system resources are rerouted away from defense and pointed upward towards higher functions. And you establish a direct link to the core processor, Bina. The entire system just returns to its factory-perfect optimized state. So what does all of this actually mean for us, personally? Because this knowledge isn't just theoretical trivia. It's designed to completely transform our personal experience of Shabbat. How do we consciously enter and really live within this divine shelter? Okay, so first, release fear. Before Shabbat even starts, make a conscious choice to just let go of the anxieties and worries of the week. Really trust that you are entering a space of absolute protection. Second, cease striving. Shabbat's peace is a gift you receive. It's not something you have to achieve or build. The most active way to participate is simply to rest and let it happen. Third, experience wholeness. Just tune into that feeling of peace and completion, knowing that you're aligning with a cosmic system that is, for one day, in its perfect state. And finally, connect upward. Use that profound quiet, that total security, to connect with the additional soul, the neshama yatira, that elevated state of consciousness that we are all gifted on Shabbat. The firewall creates the perfect, secure environment for that deep connection to just flourish.
And this all leads us to one final, really big thought. Shabbat is often described as a taste of the world to come. So if for one day out of every 7, the entire universe can automatically reboot into a state of perfect, inherent, effortless peace and security, what does that tell us about the ultimate destiny of all of creation? And maybe even more importantly, what does it reveal about our own true nature, which is most at home in that very state of being? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.